It only took me 3 hours, but I finally finished the script for Deathloop. Fucking gotcha, cunt. Don't you fucking dare. Why do bad things happen to good people? Hey cunts. Welcome back to another review. It's been a hot minute. Today we're here reviewing the PS5 timed exclusive developed by an Xbox studio. Fucking weird, I know, Deathloop. And just off the bat, I did play on the PS5. I know there's the PC version out as well, but apparently it's a buggy piece of shit. So we played on PS5. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really expecting much from this game. I haven't been a fan of Arkane's previous endeavors with Dishonored and, what was it, the Prey reboot? There's a very similar visual style to Deathloop as those previous two games I mentioned, but something here sets it apart. It's not sort of the same. Initially going to Deathloop as well, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to enjoy the experience. I think that's due to how sort of the intro kicked off. Right at the start of the game, there's sort of a, I won't say lengthy intro, but it's just long enough to be annoying, and you repeat that a few times through. I know this is a game about a time loop, but still, it didn't feel necessary, and eventually it cuts that out, so it isn't necessary. It's just bizarre. Another thing I think that made me sort of second guess what I was playing to begin with is how the missions are structured. So there's 4 areas in the game and 4 different times a day, and each area changes based on the time of day you visit. And each time you leave an area, you essentially get kicked back to like a loadout screen, which you pick all your guns and everything to go back into the next area, which I wasn't real sure on at first, but after spending some time with the game and getting a bit of a feel for the flow of it, it really does make sense. And I actually ended up coming around to the other side and loving how they handled it. And I know for a AAA game, 4 stages does sound very anemic, but with essentially every stage changing with 4 times a day and 4 stages, you essentially end up with 16 stages.
Quick maths!
I think a very large reason this works out so well for Deathloop is the level design. It's really, really top-notch stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've been exploring the environment, making my way towards the objective, only to find the most obvious path blocked by an abundance of enemies. Very rarely is only one way to tackle any given situation. Usually with a bit more digging, you can find alternate routes and all that sort of stuff. It ends up feeling really rewarding when you find this sort of back way into an area, and it just opens up the whole game. In extremely stark contrast with how good the level design is, there's the AI. Or may I just say A, because there's no fucking intelligence to be seen. The enemies in Deathloop are comedically easy to fool and escape from. One instance I'll draw attention to was a particular mission where I got stuck in a stairwell fighting enemies, and they just kept flooding towards me, totally ignoring the fact that there was a stairwell behind me that they could use to flank me. Actually, even worse than that was when I finally decided to go back up the staircase, it's like they completely forgot I existed and couldn't ascend the staircase, like they were fucking deathly allergic to stairs or something. I found this to be a pretty common occurrence with the enemies in Deathloop, and this also extends to their detection while in stealth as well. It's pretty piss poor. And this also isn't to say that I big dicked the whole game and didn't die the whole way through. I definitely did die. When the enemies hit you, they fucking hit hard. I can't tell you how many times I found very overpowered guns and I'm just like, man, fuck this shit, and I just run into an area, get cocky, and just get absolutely sat on my ass every time. The situational awareness of the enemies is also pretty bad. I know you can be in a room fighting just over here, and then you go to the next room and it's like the enemies didn't hear any of those gunshots or anything happening over there. They're totally oblivious to what's going on. That felt a bit weird. Speaking of guns, the weapons put forth in Deathloop have a nice amount of variation to them. Melee-wise, you just have sort of your machete and that's it, but firearms-wise, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, from pan magazine-fed shotguns to fancy-looking fucking nail guns, this game has everything. The guns also have rarity levels and different skins, so you basically get even more. The rarity boosts the damage dealt by the weapon and also adds special buffs as you sort of get to the higher rarity levels. Some of these buffs are super overpowered, especially with how early in the game you can get them. I'm looking at you, a very certain handgun I used through the whole game. Not only is the spread of weapons nice, there's also a nice punch to the weapons as you fire them. This could be assisted by the DualSense since I play on the PS5, but even if it isn't, the sound effects, the sound design, it's just amazing. Like, the recoil animations, the way it makes you feel like you're really firing a fucking gun. The story for this game is also super intriguing. Had me hooked the whole way through. You're essentially doing detective work to try and figure out how to break the loop, which ends up being really fun. And what really helps this is the way the game the amount it helps you doesn't hold your hand, but it also doesn't become a pain in the ass. For me, I really liked how they handled the objectives. It doesn't leave it all for you to figure out on your own. Sometimes they give you a little bit of a hint on what to do, or the general area to look for something. You essentially have plot threads, and each one of those is a requirement in order to break the loop, and you have to do that in one consecutive loop. And each of those different objectives will require you to be in a different part of the map at a different time of day. So you essentially have to work out how to do all the objectives in one go and where you need to be at what time and all that sort of stuff. It's super cool to figure out. You essentially end up juggling all these different plot threads and you're like, fuck, I need to go here, but I also need to be here at this time, and it's amazing. As I said before, Deathloop's story had me hooked the whole way through. There's this whole thick mystery around the backstory of why the loop was started. This, however, led to me being a little bit disappointed by the ending. I'm not sure exactly where it was going. I never had an idea of where they were going to end up. I don't know, it just left me feeling I wanted more from the story. It definitely didn't satisfy all the different plot threads I had in mind. A lot of that overarching mystery went unexplained, and maybe that was in text documents I missed or terminal entries I didn't read. So in short, I love the story up until about the end. And without spoiling too much, there's also these like gotchas at the end that end up being super fucking annoying. I don't know why they put them in there. It did my fucking head in. I won't spoil it, but yeah, just keep that in mind if you play this. I'm also not sure how much replayability Deathloop will have in the single player sense. Not that no replayability is a deal breaker for me, because I fucking struggle to finish games once most of the time. But having only played the game once, I don't know if there's different ways you can tackle each of the different plot threads, or if there's just one set path that you follow every time. Can't say for sure. If they did have different ways to tackle everything, that'd be super cool. Though it isn't exactly extending the replayability of the campaign, there's a multiplayer mode in Deathloop as well. It's a nice way to keep people playing, and it is really honestly very fun. I didn't mention before, but there's a certain character that will invade your game throughout your playthrough. As you're in areas, a certain character will jump in and try and hunt you around the map. If they catch you and kill you a number of times, you'll be reset right to the start of that loop. This is where the multiplayer comes in. You play as that character with your custom loadout and try to hunt the other player. Having the constant threat of another player jumping into your game's Dark Souls style and fucking you up, amazing. With the extra risk also comes extra perks, because if you kill that character, you get drops. When I saw this game was going to have multiplayer, I wasn't 100% sure on it, but this is honestly a perfect way to do multiplayer for a game like this. It just feels so fitting, and there is actually a lore explanation to how it works as well. One part I wasn't a huge fan of is how you need PlayStation Plus to do any of this multiplayer stuff, including having people invade you. Obviously PC doesn't have this issue. I mean, in a way it makes sense. PlayStation Plus, you need that to play online, do all multiplayer features and that sort of shit. But it feels weird to have to pay to have someone else invade your game. I mean, if you're the one doing the invading, it makes sense, because that's the whole point. Maybe if you're the one doing the invading, that would make more sense. Or if you're invading a friend's game, it makes sense to use PS Plus. And that is one of the matchmaking options, to invade just friends, so I don't know why they've done it that way. My other nitpick with the multiplayer is the matchmaking times. This may be due to me being in Australia and the PS5 shortage, but matchmaking takes fucking forever. I just leave my game going for 15-20 minutes, fuck off, make a cup of tea, come back, be in a game, only to find out it's laggy as fucking die. Not every session I had was laggy, some were, and I think that's mainly regional. Now I know for the end there I've just taken a massive dump on the multiplayer, but just rest assured the multiplayer is amazing. The whole game is amazing, with a few issues here and there. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time with Deathloop, especially since I wasn't really expecting much from it. But in saying that, overall I think I'd have to give Deathloop 8 out of 10 fucking painful landmines. I don't think this game's perfect in any sense. I've seen a lot of other outlets saying 10 out of 10 and all that sort of shit. The game does have its flaws, but it is very, very deserving of a play. If you have the chance, pick it up. Great game. If you like what you see here and you want to see me play games and swear live, come check me out on Twitch. Links along the bottom of the screen. Live there every Wednesday, 8:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard, or Daylight Savings Time, depending on the time of year, because fuck you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and watch this. Have a good one. Stay safe, stay frosty, keep being good cunts. I'll see you in the next video.